Welcome to the Desert Vibe, yet another edition. It's almost incomprehensible to me that anybody has invited us back, but miracles happen every day. So here we go. This podcast has been a real joy. I'm Glenn Gardner.
I'm Walt Richardson.
I'm Jamie Ray.
I'm Johnny D.
Yes, indeed. We have a very, very special guest, very good friend of mine, and just a icon and motivator in the community here, the music culture, the broadcasting field, all of that. Johnny D is with us, and I'm glad you had the time to be with us. Johnny and I crossed paths. I think it was a little while ago, months back, and I told him about the idea that I had. We were sitting at Harlow's Cafe, and I had
where
told
else?
Him about this. Yeah, I know where else. told him about this idea about the podcast, and he said, "Yeah, I'd love to be on it." And I have to tell you, Johnny, we have interviewed people like Clark Rigsby. We've interviewed William Eaton. If you go back, you can check those episodes out. And so it's a real pleasure to have you on, just to talk about how this music scene that is kind of like undercover has moved in that space and has served so many people locally and influenced a lot of people nationally and internationally. We've been here in the Valley long enough to see that kind of thing. So my first question to you is, tell us about the beginnings for you when you got to the Valley and you started your career. What was it looking like, and what were your aspirations then?
Well, I can't really say I had any aspirations. Initially, I just started to like music and listening to the radio, and of course, DJs in those days were a huge influence. And the first DJ I remember was Dave Steer, the Wild Child, and he was on KPHO radio, and he ran Coca-Cola sponsored in each market. They sponsored the Coca-Cola Club on a station with the DJ. And so Dave Steer was the Coca-Cola guy. So I still got it, my little membership card, Dave Steer Coca-Cola party, and signed it. And so that kind of piqued my interest just in music and personalities on the radio. And at the same time, I was going to pain training school in Tempe, which was ASU's, ran a K through 8 grammar school, 28 kids, limited to 28 kids a class as part of their Department of Education, so that students that were going for an education degree, becoming teachers, could come in, and they had two-way glass, so they could literally come in, and there were a couple of rows of chairs behind this glass looking into 7th grade, 8th grade. Each one had a. So I kind of realized early on that I liked music. I was kind of appointed the AV kid, so I would set up films. They had a little wagon with a 16 millimeter projector on there. So I would take films into various classrooms and show films. So that kind of got me into AV. And then for some reason, and this is, I recall it, they had 2 seatings of lunch. So, it was a small cafeteria, I guess. So 12 to 12:30 and then 12:30 to 1. And for some reason, somebody thought, well, maybe if we played music for the kids, that would aid in digestion. Lord knows what the reasoning was. But I became that kid that got to sit there and play records.
It depends who the musician is, by the way, as far as that digestion thing goes.
Yes, of course. Yes, it works many different areas. So that's kind of how I got my kind of foot in the door playing, because then I had to get records. Then I had new music. So that got me to Hill's Books and Records, which was right across from Pain Training School at the time in Tempe Center. So that's where I bought my Fats Domino, my Rick Nelson, whatever else was going on at the time. And then I would play them, and I was, paying 98 cents a pop. And so one day, and it was run by Howard and June Perlman. I've been very blessed in my life. Well, people
Yeah.
have been like you, people, if they like you, they help you, they go out of their way to make sure that you're doing the things that you might want to do or have an idea where you want to go, and they're helping. So Howard and June were kind of my go-to. Wow. And that was as close as to the record business as I could get at the time.
Mhm.
One day, underneath the fixtures that they had all the albums up above, and they had these kind of curtains kind of covering the stuff and box. One day I looked underneath there, and there were just dozens of boxes of 100 count 45s, man. So
Oh.
I thought, wow, and Mr. Perlman, can I look? Oh, sure, John, go ahead. He smoked a pipe. He was great. He would pontificate with his pipe,
Yeah.
giving out nuggets of wisdom. So I'm opening the box, Walt, and they're all these mostly white label records. And it said, DJ copy, not for sale, promotional use only. And I go, Mr. Perlman, what are these? And then he starts, well, Johnny, those are promotional records that the record companies make and give out to jukeboxes and radio stations and stores to promote their records. And I said, well, Mr. Perlman, it says these are free. It says on here, not for sale, free. He says, yes, they're free. And I'm thinking I'm paying 98 cents. So that's when the bell went on, ding, 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 ding. I got to get closer to figure out how this all works. So being the kind person that he was, he said, well, Johnny, do you want to go over to the warehouse with me? Every Thursday I go over and get my new records at the record distributors. So at that time, there were 3 record distributors all on 16th Street. So, God, I wish I could remember. It was like a Lancer. He had a 4-door Lancer, I think. So he was kind enough to take this little punky kid with him over to, and the first distributor we went to was MB Krupp of Arizona, which was a satellite of MB Krupp of El Paso, which was a huge record distributor. They distributed all of the smaller labels, not the RCAs, the Columbias. They all had their own sales force and to do stuff. But these were the smaller jazz and soul and country and rock labels that would distribute various labels across the country. So when I went into that warehouse, Walt, and I saw walls of records, my head exploded. It just, oh my God, what is this all about? And so Howard was so kind, so he introduced me to the other couple, that Margot and Marv Grover. It's bringing a tear to my eye, because these people just had a belief in me and said, hey, kid, So we had a little business that by that time, I was in high school with my buddy Ron Harkins, and we had started a little DJ service. I was a freshman at Tempe High, called Have Records Will Spin. So I had a little business card with that on John, Ron, DJs, blah, blah, blah. So Howard said, well, listen, Margot, John here has a DJ service. He plays records. And she goes, well, we should set him up with some records. So I'm standing there, Walt, looking at, they had the 25 count album boxes cut at the end on a shelf. So there was Kriz, Crux, KPHO, KXIV, all of these radio, KEOS, all these radio stations where they would take the promo copies and just throw them in. So at the end, there was an empty box. She scotch taped my card on there. So every week after that, I would go over on my friend Art Webb Cushman, my buddy. We were high school buddies. He had a centrifugal clutch Cushman waltz. So you have to get it going for the clutch to kick in. I'd go across the Tempe Bridge. I'd go down to Washington. I go on 16th Street. every week, Walt, and I get a pile of 45s, Chess, Checkers, Stax, Fold, Atlantic,
Oh,
just all of these wonderful records that, for the most part, were getting played on radio because there weren't that many R&B stations unless you were James Brown or Wilson Pickett, somebody who was kind of crossing over. So week after week, I would come back to Tempe with this pile of records between my legs on the cushion and sit there and just get turned on to all this wonderful music,
wow.
mostly blues and R&B. And then I would share them when we play our dances at Tempe High. I was able to play records that I liked and thought, hey, this is great, just because it sounded good and people could dance to it. So that's really the roots of how I kind of got into the business and realized that, hey, I want to find out more about manufacturing, distribution, promotion, and all of that. And that's Hills Books and Records was the holy grail for
Wow.
me.
So I have a question about that time area. Wasn't like Tempe Beach Park, wasn't that still, was it still
Oh,
segregated?
hell yes, man. No,
And
it was,
so you were bringing this music in and you were putting it on the air and people were hearing,
well, no, not on the air wall. I was putting it on the speakers in the gymnasium.
oh, so
That was,
people were still hearing music from other cultures and everything.
well, yeah. I mean, whatever. I don't know when KCAC, I remember listening to them, and they were the first and I think only black radio station that really sounded, that had black DJs. Hadley Moreau was there, and Jim Titus, and Ray Ford was there. They had some really good DJs, but other than that, there was really no exposure on the airways of soul music
Right.
unless it was a crossover. So
Uh,
you wouldn't hear the Muddy Waters and the real down to earth blues on normal radio. It was all the kind of crossover
Well, and
Wilson
a lot of
Pickett.
times you'd hear the sanitized versions, which was
Of course,
a white
of
artist,
course. Oh,
which
right. That's right.
would cover one of those cool records that that you
Pat
were
Boone,
pulling out of
Good
the
Golly
box
Miss
there.
Molly. So
Yeah.
yes, Pat Boone came out with Good Golly Miss Molly,
yeah.
and people, oh wow, what a great Good Golly, and then you discovered Little Richard, and you go, and I'm sure parents went
Yeah,
crazy
there was
when
this
they.
little line under the title of the song, that Pat Boone did that would say "Little Richard," and if you were kind of, an inquisitive type person, you would. This was my journey too, Johnny. Was, well, who's this little name under here?
Yeah,
And then it's like,
well,
well, that little name under there is the guy that wrote it.
but then in some of the larger markets, of course, you could hear Little Richard on one station and then
Oh,
Pat Boone on another station in the same market. But this was Phoenix, so we didn't have that advantage of when you heard Pat Boone, you go, oh, I heard that by Little Richard. Well, here it was kind of the other way around because
yeah.
KOY or whatever, the more pop stations
Yeah.
would play the Little Richard version, uh, but no, that was just an amazing awakening of for me, just to being a little white cracker that I was, to appreciate black music and what was going on there, and just the quality of things that most of the kids that were listening to radio never had a chance to hear
Where are
unless
you
they were at one of my record hops.
where are you from originally?
I was born in Hawaii. I was born in Oahu, 1946. My mom was in the USO during the war, which had
Uh,
ended, and so she was still there working with the USO. And so my father, she met my father there. He went off and never came back, unfortunately. But I stayed around, and so she was there for 2 years, and then we moved to Owatonna, Minnesota for 2 years, Corvallis, Oregon for 2 years. She wanted to be a teacher, so she was working on getting her teacher certificate while working in the library, and as a liberal arts major, going for her certificate. And then in 1953, she was big on finding 2 years. She was kind of a nomad, and finding neat little towns, So she would send out brochures to chambers of commerce all over the country. And so she got a brochure from Tempe, Arizona, small college town, 20,000 people, blah, blah, blah. And then the other place was Berea, Kentucky, which was a little further, obviously, east. So for some reason, she decided, well, let's go with no job. I mean, what a courageous woman, single mom with this little kid she's pulling along. So, and this is August. Well, we got off the train. The train would stop at the Tempe station in August. So we're looking out the window and we see these heat waves coming off the bricks and everything. And so the porter, in those days, they would open the door and then he'd put some steps down and then he had a final little step that he would have set on the ground to get you off the train. So as the porter, and we're getting off with our little suitcases, and middle of August, the porter goes to my mom, "Lady, what you coming here this time of year for?" And then so we said, "Hold on, what are we thinking?" So it was lucky. It was around noontime, I guess. So the station manager was going to lunch. And so my mom said, well, just take us to the nearest hotel, which was the Casa Loma Hotel.
Oh, yes.
So he drove us to the Casa Loma Hotel, 1953, dropped us off. And in those days, they had, the porches all around with fans. So they had screened in porches and you had your room and then every room had a porch. So that first night we took towels and wet the towels and we're laying underneath the fan on the porch because it was so hot. And that was our first night in Tempe, Arizona. And then shortly after that, bless her heart, she got a job at Matthews Library at ASU. So that's how I got into pain training school, because you had to have some sort of a ASU connection, but it was wonderful. It was multicultural. The grounds crew kids were there. The professors' kids were there, and yours truly was there for I guess it was about the second or third grade, and that's when Mrs. Crouch, there, one of my teachers, thought I had some musical, and she made me the AV guy, and that's kind of how I started, and then spinning records. But Tempe was, and then. I'm getting a little ahead of myself, but after 2 years, she was ready to go to Berea, Kentucky, right? She was ready to kind of keep every 2 years. And so I must have whined, "Oh, Mom, I don't want to leave my friends." I know. And so instead of saying, "Shut up, kid, get on the train, you'll be fine," and I would have been, she, for her little boy, decided, okay, she'll stay there. And so she got her teacher certificate. And in 1956, she was the first white teacher in the Roosevelt district. They integrated teachers. And Dr. Greenfield, who she had met through the library because he was working on his doctorate, said, "Miss Dixon, we're going to be hiring some white teachers, and you'd be ideal for that." And so they were supposed to hire 3 or 4, but of course, only one for the first couple of years. And then eventually they hired some more. But she was the first white teacher there and taught the third grade for like 25 years there in South Phoenix.
Yep. Wow. That's where I met.
Yeah.
I finally met her years later. She was a librarian over there at Martin Luther King.
Yeah. Yeah.
I was in the Head Start program teaching.
That's right. And she spent, first to come, last to go. She'd go out there on Saturday. She never corrected papers during the class because you're supposed to be teaching. She was amazing. And she drove a 52 Chevy that everybody knew, man, Mrs. Dixon's Chevy. And if you didn't come to school, you got a visit from Miss Dixon after school to see what is going on. And if you needed anything, if you needed groceries, if you had to go to she was just an amazing woman. And then kids, of course, started sending their kids to get Mrs. Dixon's class because she had the best field trips and the best decorations in her classroom and everything. She really took it seriously. Yeah, one of a kind.
I told you guys, this man, he's an icon.
He is. He's bigger than you.
Yep, that's right. I'm following.
No,
I'm standing on
no,
his
I don't think
shoulders.
so.
Johnny D, I gotta
Yes, ma'am.
jump in here because these guys will never
Jump.
let me talk. So
Go for it, girl.
I
Go.
have a question for you though. You've been quoted as saying that you're just a kid from Tempe. You're not Arizona born, but you have become one of the state's greatest champions and preservers of Arizona music history. So I want to ask you, I do have more questions, just so you know, because they'll cut me
Please.
off. But just coming to Arizona as a child in the 50s, what did Arizona sound like back then?
Well, I don't know. I'll be honest, because I was playing Fats Domino and Rick Nelson and Eddie Cochran and Buddy Holly. I was inputting. I was
Yeah.
paying no attention. I had no idea. Phoenix, and
Yeah.
it wasn't until, and probably not even at the time, when I heard Rebel Rouser by Dwayne Eddy. I mean,
Mm.
that was a big hit. That was getting play everywhere. But I even then I did not make that connection. I mean, at the time, this would be
Mm-hmm.
1958.
Yeah.
So, and then I started to realize, well, wait a minute, Dwayne Eddy lives here. This is, oh, audio recorders, that's here. So that's when I started to realize, oh, there is a music scene
Mm.
going on here in Phoenix. And I there was a music store on University called Memory Lane. It was run by a guy named
Mm.
Larry Finn. Larry Finn bought Hill's Books and Records, so his original location was there, and then he moved out on to University and started his Memory Lane record store. And so one day and he had a couple boxes of Arizona records,
Mm.
dedicated Arizona records. So I would go back there and kind of, flip through the box and go, okay. And by that time, I Ramco Records, Viv Records. I kind of knew the local record labels and realized there was a scene. Plus, I was getting promo copies at the time of these local records because they'd go in my box with the other national labels too. So I had a sense of there being a scene here. But one day I'm back there looking through the records, and this guy comes in the front of Larry's store and says, "Hey, I'm looking for these records. Do you have the Viceroys on Ramco? I'll pay $300 for that. Do you have the Versatiles on Ramco? I'll pay." And I'm going ding, ding, and because I don't know whether I had them, but I was aware of them, and I started making lists of record labels, starting to fill in and get all the records to that label did. So that when I heard that conversation, I realized, oh, these records are worth money. Other people are looking for them because they weren't hits. They might have gotten a little play on Chris or Crux here, but for the most part, with few exceptions, Dwayne being one of them, didn't make it out of Phoenix. So
Mm.
that was another moment where I said, you've got to follow up on this. So after that, I started putting all my records in order numerically by the record label, started looking for ones that I didn't have, and that's kind of how I started appreciating Arizona music. And then I started tracking down the label owners, the
Mm.
singers, people that were involved in getting their stories to get more records too. And so I kind of started interviewing people, getting their stories. Lloyd Klingman, Floyd Ramsey, who owned audio
Mm.
recorders. These people were also very good to me because I was kind of the first guy to come to them and say, hey, how many records did you make? They go, well, I don't know. Why don't you figure it out? Which I did. So I made discographies for them of the records. And I just realized just what a great scene. And once I met Lloyd Klingman was kind of the first one. So European record labels would be looking for certain records, not hits, but like rockabilly stuff and that they were using. So they would kind of come to me because word got around, well, John Dixon might know where to find the master tape, which in some cases I did. So that was another way that people found out about me and how kind of the music scene. And then I started helping with compilations and writing liner notes and such, especially with Bear Family in Germany, of all Arizona related music. So that's kind of how I got there when I realized, wow, there's a lot of record labels here. Somebody needs to find out about each and every one and write the stories down. So that's what I did.
So you worked for Capitol, right? You at
I
Capitol
did.
Records and
I
in
did.
London,
So
and in
long,
London also.
yes. Lucky boy.
Yeah.
Another long-winded story. So I got out of the service and I came back for my junior year, ASU broadcast major on the GI Bill. So I went to the Grovers because they owned three retail music outlets called Musicland. There was one in Thomas Mall. So
Mm.
I was working there part-time, Musicland in Thomas Mall, and going to ASU, broadcast major, and doing that. And one day, Margot called and said, John, our guy, Howard or whatever, quit today. Would you want to come in and do promotion for us? And now you're going to have to unload the trucks because they come in, the records that come in on these little bobtail trucks, they long, and which I was aware of having visited there many times before. I mean, it's like, holy crap. Now I am the guy putting the records in the box, It's me. It's Johnny D. Boom, boom, KOY, boom. Okay, what do you need? Need the copy of that? Okay, yeah, we'll get that done. Oh, Three Dog Night, sure, we'll get it. So I got into the warehouse there. So I was doing promotion. I was picking up promo people at the airport and going over to see Pat McMahon at Chris, and they go
Mm.
out to lunch at Durant's. And I just sit there like a fly on the wall because they're all old school talking radios, New York City, Philadelphia, Detroit, all these great, wonderful stories. And I'm just kind of sitting there with the free lunch and soaking up just as much, history as I can. So one of the labels that they were distributing was called ABC Dunhill. So ABC Dunhill decided to set up their own distribution. In other words, they'd have their own warehouses in major cities instead of using MB Krupps, using
Mm.
independent record distributors. So because of the friendships I built up meeting these people and talking to them, oh yeah, man, Three Dog Night, yeah, the Chris added it and it's going to be on Crux tomorrow, and KOY. So I kind of had a rapport with all these different promo who were idols, of course. Here were guys getting paid and giving away free records and getting paid and having an expense account. And I'm going, wow. So suddenly I was one of those guys. I got to go to the ABC branch in Burbank. They opened a branch there. So they had a guy for LA proper because there were so many stations there. But I covered everything else: San Bernardino, San Diego, Phoenix, Albuquerque, Flagstaff, Tucson. And then
Mm.
I got to fly over here and rent a car and drive down and take him out to lunch and all of that. So I started with ABC Dunhill, and I worked there for a while, and then they were opening up a sales position in Phoenix, Capital, and I met a branch manager, Larry Hathaway, on a flight back from Detroit. I think had moved up to Impulse, so I was the national promotion director for Impulse, which IBC for a moment. So like John Clemmer, Keith Jarrett, they were doing all kinds of reissues of John Coltrane, and just Impulse was such a classic label. So I was doing that for about 4 months, and then Larry Hathaway said, "Hey John, would you want to go back to Phoenix? We're opening up. We're going to have a salesman based in Phoenix. You get blah 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 money. You get a brand new car and blah." So
Ah,
I took that job and I came back to Phoenix, and they let me do promotion too, which normally they had a sales guy and a promo guy. But since I was from here, I knew everybody. I knew everyone at KDKB because I had a show there, R&B with Johnny D, for several years where I played a lot of these R&B 45s and albums that I got. So I came back there, and then I got an offer to go into the tower in like 1977. Are you kidding me? From Phoenix to go to the tower, the 12th floor in A&R, which is
And
a
what
dream.
he's talking about, the tower, is that iconic Capitol building
Oh, yeah,
Oh,
in Hollywood
yeah,
that everybody
yeah,
yeah.
knows. That
yeah.
round.
Everybody knows. 12th floor, a dream. I mean, are you kidding me? I mean, I'm a little Tempe kid, and now I've got an office in the 12th floor, and I was director of international A&R. So I was working with Kate Bush, Status Quo, Bebop Deluxe, Gentle Giant, Pink Floyd, all of these
So
major
what year are we talking about here, Johnny?
1960, 19, excuse me, 1977, 1978. I
Okay.
was in the
Okay.
tower for 2 years doing that. And then,
So this is
and
when rock was actually absolutely,
oh,
or
progressive rock,
album rock, quote unquote, was
album rock,
exploding.
KDKB, all of those progressive FM
Mm-hmm.
stations were
Yeah.
playing, long cuts and all of these
Not to
bands
mention
from
that
all over the
Capitol was
world.
the label the Beatles were on.
Yeah.
Yes, that's very true. But in those days, it was pretty much repackaging.
Right.
So, I mean, Capitol never. I mean, Little River Band was another one that broke out.
Yeah.
Steve Miller. I mean, they had a lot of really. They had a really good roster, but it was really based by what what Beatles repackaging can we put together this month to make an extra whatever.
Right.
And then they had all the other ones there. And then I was there for about 2 years, and then an opening in London opened up. But this time, instead of A&R, I was working for the marketing department
Mm.
based in London. So I'm flogging Anne Murray albums in Sweden and stuff, making sure the posters get there. So I'm kind of coordinating the European release of Capitol artists and singers. So I got to stay in London for 2 years, which was another. I mean, was such a lucky boy. So that was
Yeah.
great because that was like late 70s. The punk scene was going, all the Jam, the Clash, Kate Bush. I mean, there was just so much musically going on. And I was trying to get the Police, who I saw long before they broke out here, and tried to get Capitol to sign them. And they already had a deal with A&M over there, who had the first refusal here. Anyway, I was aware of so much going on there that Capitol, I was hoping, would get into. So after 2 years, I was going to go to work for a label called Radar, which had Elvis Costello was their big,
Mm.
and they were going to open. They were going to open a boutique label at the Warner Brothers lot in LA. So I was going to come back. So I gave my notice to Capitol because that's how I got a green card right away, because Capitol was owned by EMI. So it was real easy, but without a job, you kind of lose. So anyway, I came back to LA for a while looking for a gig. And then I came back to Phoenix in 1980 with a trunk full of UK 45s.
Wow.
And that's when I started K15, which was the kind of punk radio station, lasted for six
Let
months.
me
KDKB's AM
Yeah.
station.
let me ask you, while we're talking about artists, I know Glenn has some questions too, but I want to know, like, there's probably more than three, but let's just stick with three. What three Arizona artists should everyone know about that they probably don't? Don't say Walt.
Well, yeah,
The
yeah,
Blindsiders, I
that's
know, are one.
well, I mean, that's oh man, that
Yeah, it's a tough
well, I mean,
question.
I mean, I'm not, yeah, but I'm more 50s, 60s, 70s. That's my
That's
head. I have
okay.
no idea what's going on now. So, I
I'm
mean,
just
one
talking
would be
about all of
the Jetsons,
Arizona.
off the top of my mind, the Jetsons. Bruce
Yeah. Yes.
Kinnell, one of the
Yes.
most creative guys, just absolutely amazing writer and performer.
Yep.
That would be one group. Another group was the Bob Meehan Band
Yep.
from Tucson.
Yep.
Bob
Yep.
Meehan was really a great singer, songwriter, just a wonderful performer, and also Capitol artist. So I was kind of involved with him there. And well, and then I mean, not really from her, but Jerry Riopelle. That would
Yes.
kind of be
Yes.
a lot of people don't. I mean, other than certain markets, don't know. So I just throw out those three names off the top of my head that
Yeah.
were
Yeah.
quality music and
That's
didn't get the recognition that
Yes.
that's a
that they
great.
deserved.
I never thought I'd say this, Jamie Ray, but that was a great question.
Thank
Yeah.
you. Thank you, Glenn.
You're welcome.
Appreciate that.
You say it again.
Right? Hey, Johnny, it's interesting because our careers kind of parallel each other on different sides of the track to some extent. Because I got started in radio at 15 years old at an experimental station in Boston called WAAF, which was a legendary letter station where Lee Abrams, who you probably know that name, was the program director. And I wandered in there at 15 years old, and and rock radio became a big part of my life professionally at that point. So I ended up programming stations. I was the guy that people like Johnny would knock on the door of and offer the sun, moon, and stars to play a record. And there was so much money at that point in time. I mean, it's such a different landscape now. You cannot imagine the amount of resource that sat in that tower, and also over at EMI in London. I guess I would be interested because there's all kinds of great bands that got signed, be they Arizona or be they somewhere else, that for whatever reason, sometimes the label got a little jinky about, about putting a lot of money behind something, and sometimes it just didn't work for whatever reason. What at Capitol was your biggest disappointment in a project that they handed you and said, "We feel this one"? But for whatever reason, even maybe radio didn't like it, or the public ended up not liking it in some way, but it never happened.
Yeah. Oh, I know exactly. It's one. Kate Bush.
Yeah.
Word. I when I was at the tower, they would do these conventions. So I'd have to fly over anyway. I'd fly over to London, and they'd have representatives from all the different countries get together, and they'd play. EMI would play all the forthcoming new artists that were going to be released. So. And then you would go and see them perform. As part of it, you'd go out and see them live. So I got to see Kate Bush at the 100 Club live behind a piano before anyone had ever heard of her. No one had ever heard of her name. And she sat there and performed live in front of all these different reps and label managers from all over the world whose jaws were dropping hearing this young singer, her songs, her sincerity, the quality of the music, and we were just all again. I mean, we were just all blown away. So everybody kind of goes back. I got a 16 millimeter clip. This is before, MTV, of Kate that they'd made up. These are of her performing Wuthering Heights. So it's her outside on the grass and the singing, lip syncing the song, and it was incredible. It was just and just her visually, her vocal wise. So I brought that back to Capitol Records. Every Thursday there was a marketing meeting on the 8th floor, whatever it was, with all the sales geeks and marketing geeks, and they discuss new Bob Seger album, what markets they were going to buy. There's a poster, there's a T-shirt. They come up with all these plans, and then they'd go, "Well, Dixon, what do you have for us?" So I set up the film. I set it up, dim the lights, Wuthering Heights, boom. Kathy, it's me, Kathy. Oh man! So I'm just like, oh, so this is just great. So, whatever it was, 3 minutes, the lights come up, and basically the gist of all these old timers behind was, what the hell is this crap? That was the gist of the meeting. But yet EMI was so committed to her that Capitol had to put it out. I mean, worldwide, they put it out. So we put out the Kick Inside, the first the album, and it just did not catch on. Yeah, I mean, I was calling all my station friends and music, and it just every other country, she was huge. It was a smash. In Canada, she was in Mexico, she was huge. But here, poor Kate Bush never got her due, and it was disappointment because I we would talk. I'd call her and she called, Johnny, what's going on? What's happening with the? Well, we got some airplay in New
Got
York
some
and
spins here, we
whatever.
got some spins there, blah blah blah. But
You know the story.
yeah,
You got it, pal, but not enough to do. And then, funny enough, EMI started another label called EMI America. So it was another complete label, staffed, full, separate, promotion team and marketing team and whatever. They took that first album and they re-released it. So the president believed in her enough, Jim Mazza, that he said, "This is great. We'll try again." And they tried again, and it didn't happen. So they two releases of the same album. For whatever reason, the voice wasn't compatible with what was on the radio or whatever. But everywhere else in the world, she became a superstar when that first album came out.
would you say, Johnny, you were one of those guys? And this is back before there was a lot of research, and there wasn't that. Now everything is very heavily researched, and hook wires up to people and whatnot. There were guys in the
Yep.
industry and women in the industry back then that were just people that were noted for great ears. And that quite simply meant you could hear something and you could go, that is going to be it. And when I look at the Capitol roster from back when you were there, Duran Duran, Power Station, Motels, Pet Shop Boys, Crowded House, The Go-Go's, all this stuff was starting to percolate out of that building, and some other places. Were you one of those guys that could basically listen to something, and really, when you think of a promo guy, your job is to sell it to radio, to sell it to whomever could have an impact on pushing that stuff out there. And also the money part, it was also your job, I would assume too, to say, well, these people are worthy of putting in a van or a bus and making play every shithole between Portland, Oregon and Portland, Maine. Maybe opening for a bigger Capitol act or something like that. Were you that guy?
Sure. I wasn't actually. No, I was more the guy in the tower that worked with the band's manager, the singer's management, and the marketing team and the promotion within the tower to make sure that the wants of the band were made clear to Capitol and vice versa. So I was kind of the go-between in between, letting know, but we got a budget for you now to do this, to do the East Coast. We're going to do that extra poster, that extra, that extra thing, shirts. They would make bomber jackets in those days. I'll never forget this. We made a Bob Seger bomber jacket, the big with Bob Seger. And I had other company guys calling me to get one. I mean,
This is where that term swag that term swag came from.
Correct. Yes.
And
hats, coats, bags.
When I say there was money, one of these bomber jackets, I'm guessing, might have been $100.
Yeah.
Back then.
Yeah, and then you could have them customized. You put the program director's name on it and all that, and send them. And so, I mean, you had so
I've
much
got 5 of them in my
material.
closet, Johnny.
Yeah. Well, I've gotten rid of mine. I still have a couple left. I can't fit into them anymore. But no, they really, if they believed in you, they will back you. But I wasn't involved more in the day-to-day. I would go out on the road and coordinate maybe in Philadelphia with MMR and make sure that they had enough copies of the record and they were doing a concert there. So I was kind of involved in that way, but pretty much for the most part, I stayed in the tower. But just one mention of something that you had mentioned as belief in the artist. Bob Seger, and now you kind of get one shot. Okay, put it out. That's it. Goodbye. Next. I think it was like his fifth album. They kept believing and didn't do it, and they kept putting him out on the road. He would tour. That was the other, man. If you toured and had product out and you had product in the stores, maybe it wasn't a hit, but there was a constant backing of these artists. So when Bob Seger's fifth or sixth album finally hit, whatever it was, those first five albums suddenly were back on the chart.
Kaboom.
Suddenly, kaboom, right? All of that work, it wasn't like, and now for the most part, it's kind of two albums after, in the 80s, you'd kind of get two albums. If it didn't go, you were gone. But that's one of the things that I loved in Capitol, that everybody there, if they believed in you, they just said, no, I'm sorry, we need another album. Let's get this producer. They worked to try and find that hit.
Well, we're running kind of short on time, Walt. So why don't you take it, Walt, and then we can do our wrap up of what's going on in the region.
Cool. Johnny, this is again. We've been saying this with all of our guests. We have to have you back because this is just
because I
one.
still have like 30 questions.
So
okay.
Jamie wants one of those jackets.
And now we know how to get it to work. So yeah, that helps.
Two final statements here. Number one, when you were mentioning Kate Bush, isn't it funny how the internet has shaped so many artists' work? Because my takeaway of her is hearing her during lockdown when the internet was using some of her vocals and as background music on some of the things that they were posting on social media. And I would say, who is this woman? And so I'd look and I'd see on their feed or it would say Kate Bush, and so then I looked her up and I go, oh my God, this is
nice.
That kind of thing where here's somebody that I'm hearing about that was already being supported at another point in time, but the internet was brought her into mind for me. Because I thought she was a new artist, and I was thinking, this is a really good. This song is good, and her vocal is really something that fits with this time. And I go, who's this young lady? And go to find out that kind of thing. So my other question, my basic statement is, the music scene in Arizona is completely unique to any other scene out there, LA and Austin and everything. And I wanted to get your take on what you see as how the musicians work together, or how they work in Arizona, Flagstaff, Tucson, all of that, the scene, as in comparison to what you would see in Austin, Nashville, Memphis, and everything. What's your take?
Well, trying to wrap everything up as far as Arizona's contribution to the music scene. I mean, I've said it before, I'll say it again. To me, the most important recording, and I'm not aware of a lot of things going on now, Walt. So I know there are talented bands and singers, and so I know there are. I just don't get out and about or pay attention to the scene as I did, in the 80s or the 90s when I had a radio show to play. But the most important sound is the twangy sound of Duane Eddy's guitar to me. And that's back to 1958. I wish I could say, 3 years there's something, but Jimmy Eat World and all these other more modern groups, Roger Clyne. I mean, these people obviously have got success and a market and going, but to me, when that Rebel Rouser sound, it was a hit around the world in 1958. It was played all over the world. It topped the charts. It was as big as the Beatles and for a couple of years on the polls that they would take. But just that creation between Lee Hazelwood, the writer, producer, Duane Eddy, Jack Miller, the engineer, the
Mm.
empty 2,000-gallon water tank that they used to create an echo that they could run back through the tape machine. These sort of things that hadn't been done before. And the fact that all the players, they were just kind of nightclub players. They had night gigs. They were kind of band members that Lee would put together to create this sound that he heard in his head, and that influenced so many guitar players all over the world. A lot of the British guitar players, Jeff Lynne, just tons of them, uh, talk about the influence when they first heard Rebel Rouser. That was the moment that they said, "I want to do that." And when you have that sort of a relationship, that sort of connection to your audience, that's amazing. I wish I was aware of, more modern things and influences and such that Arizona artists have, but obviously they're there. But for me, that was the most important moment in Arizona music history.
So,
That
as the
that's
unofficial historian, I want to ask this question. I don't want him to leave today without this because I've been dying to ask him. I'm sorry, Walt, but
no,
when
sorry.
people talk about Arizona music 100 years from now, what do you hope they will say about Arizona music?
Well, that it was unique and creative, that the desert, just everything we soak up here, the weather, the heat, all of those things that people deal with from day to day obviously influences the creativity
Yeah,
and that so-called, desert sound. I mean, and Tucson's got its own kind of unique
Yeah,
clique of artists and sound and stuff, which interestingly enough is probably appreciated more overseas than
mm.
it is here, which is
hmm
the case of many people, i.e.,
So,
Giant Sand, Howie Gelb, all those
yeah,
guys are appreciated more over there. They get records out
yeah,
here. So it's our sound is something that people worldwide can hear as something different and unique. And obviously, it continues to be. There's just
yeah,
such a wonderful plethora of artists now and singers now still
yeah,
creating music.
yeah.
And but to me it goes back to those 50
yeah.
those
Hey, and
origins
if
in
you
the
want to,
50s that
speaking
kind of
of a great resource in Arizona, if you want to see the guitar that was created on a whatnot, just go over to the MIM, and
Mm.
they've got some of
yeah
Dwayne Eddy stuff,
yeah
and every time
the
I walk by that
actual
case,
Rebel Rouser guitar.
I'm like, wow,
Yeah,
like
Yeah.
that's
No,
cool.
he donated. He donated. That is the actual guitar that Dwayne Eddy donated to the MIM, as well as I might mention Mike Candelo's guitar, who was a big influence on so many people here. His guitar is now out at the MIM, so that's a wonderful resource to find out and learn more about
That
that
is,
music
it is.
history.
My
It
guitar is
sure
at
is.
Goodwill, actually. If anybody wants
Ah,
to go check it
yeah,
out,
there
you
you
can
it's
go.
walk.
gonna be sitting next to
Why
that
not?
bomber jacket in a
Hey,
few
hey,
Right,
hey,
weeks.
There
yeah.
you
I
go.
said his swag is there
It's
too.
on the
right.
rack.
See
Yeah.
this one came from Z in New York.
Oh, wow,
So
nice.
you know,
Nice. Nice. Are
and
those real leather sleeves
oh hell yeah, yeah.
or
Mm.
Sears?
No,
Okay.
no, this
Okay.
is not pleather. This was once mooing.
Oh,
Mooing.
okay.
It,
Excellent.
it,
Even
it
better.
We
at
just
one
lost
point.
people there.
Yeah. Anyway, Johnny, this has been a fascinating discussion, and we're going to have round two of like every guest that we've had because
Yeah.
the stories and the insight are really valuable, and I learn so much every time we do a show. It's just amazing. And
Great.
and
Well, I look
maybe what we
forward
want to
to
do
it.
is one by one next time go by all those tchotchkes that are behind you,
Oh, that'll
including
be a show.
right, including that RCA ribbon mic that's right over your shoulder
Oh,
there,
you
because
noticed? Yeah, yeah.
I wouldn't mind putting that one in my pocket and just taking
I
it home
There's
I
with
a
me.
wouldn't either. I've been looking at it the whole time.
there's a couple of them. There's a couple more.
Yeah.
Yeah,
And
those are great.
right
So,
there.
Johnny,
So
thank you so much for Johnny Dixon for being part of the
Thank
program
you.
here, and
pleasure, Glenn.
we will have you back.
Yes,
Look
we
Thank,
forward
will.
to it.
thank,
Thank you
thank.
so much. It was
Oh,
great. Take
you're
care,
welcome.
Thank
everyone.
you.
Take care.
Blessings. Thank
See you
you.
next
Peace.
time, buddy.
Peace.
That was
So,
awesome.
yeah, like I said, I've known him since I got here in about
1840.
1840, 1840, and he's been a fixture, a person that we would just crisscross paths with at different events, usually the larger ones, and we got to know each other. And then it turned out that his mother was actually a neighbor here,
Mm,
lived one street over, and I would see her riding her bike every
mm.
evening after working over there in South Phoenix. Like I said, when I was working with Head Start program, she was the librarian over there and teaching a class. And he's right; all the people loved her
Oh.
and wanted to be in her class.
And he
And
still lives in Arizona, right?
yeah, yeah, he lives in Arizona, and he's just, you hear his stories, and he's got tons of them.
Oh,
So
I had like
we
30
just,
more questions,
yeah, we're
so
gonna have him
he has
back.
to come back.
One of the things
And
that
You,
I really appreciated though is, and which people have a hard time sometimes if they didn't live through this era, particularly someone with your skin color, Walt, was how segregated,
yeah,
hmm
within our lifetimes,
yep,
at least Walt and myself, within our
Yeah.
lifetimes, and there were people that broke those barriers down. And this guy that we had on today, Johnny Dixon, was one of those guys. He didn't spend a tremendous amount of time on it, but you were putting yourself out there.
yeah,
If you had the audacity to go into a segregated radio station, let's say, with a Muddy
Mm.
Waters record and say, you guys need to be playing this.
yeah.
Yeah.
And his approach of how he tells his story, that's his personality. So I mean, if he came in there with a hammer and say, "Hey, try this on the air," people would be up there trying to see how they could make it work because of just his demeanor. His mother was just like that. It's this universal acceptance of life and appreciation of art
Yeah.
coming from a very, very sincere place. And that is the way we all know this personally. That's the way music works. You're in there just trying to get through the song, and for some reason it touches somebody in a way that makes a difference in their life, and they
hmm
they take a different trajectory. You know?
Yeah.
Without people like that, the song, the music, the artist never would have been heard
Right.
by
Yeah.
anybody. Or maybe just a few people in their very small sphere
Mm.
of,
Yeah.
of personal contact. But if people like him didn't have the cojones to go out and say, you need to be paying attention to this,
Yeah.
it wouldn't have happened.
Right.
And Walt, were
Right.
you paying attention? All it took was one small business card, and he had the records. He just was off and running
That was
just
1958,
from
Jamie
a
Ray.
business card.
1958.
I don't care. The merch
Well,
sells. The merch, the business
well,
card. He talked a lot about
a
that, Walt. Did you
a
write it down?
I didn't write it down, but I noticed it, and it's called drive
It is.
and
There you
It
passion
go.
is.
for what it is that
It
you
is.
uh, believe in and feel naturally. He wasn't saying, "I'm going to do this because I want this kind of job." He was saying
Right.
it was the next door was opening because he
Yep.
was already doing it, and he just noticed, "Oh, I can walk through this door too. Oh,
Yep.
look at this. I'm going to lift
With
this.
a business card.
I'm gonna look
And
up."
a bomber jacket.
And while we were talking, I was ordering my blindsider bomber jackets. I've got them designed right now.
There you go. Well, you know what? I'm getting rather warm
Are you?
in this jacket now. So we should probably figure out what's live, loud, and local here in Arizona, and then get rolling on. So
Okay.
Well,
So
Live, Loud, and Local out in Pinell County just happened. Country Thunder is over. We had a blast out here. Slowing down because of the heat, but we do still have some venues open out here. Windmill Winery is going to have music for a few more months. The Queen Creek Olive Mill, River Bottom will still have music for a couple more months, and it's kind of slowing down. But I know there's music and stuff going on all over the valley, so whatever you guys got live, loud, and local, I'm sure the people would love to hear it.
okay, over here in Tempe, what's live, loud, and local is finally the correct weekend of the air. The
is
reggae
this
festival
reggae thing
happened.
happening
It
actually?
is
Or?
actually
It's a
happening.
Ponzi scheme.
Yeah, I mean, it's actually happening this weekend at the Tempe
Uh,
Town Lake, and I know quite a few people that have bought tickets for all 3 nights out there. If there was a night that I would go to it, it would be the Sunday night
mm.
where Stephen
Is that
Marley,
Stephen Marley? Yeah.
Stephen Marley, and God, Steel Pulse are on that bill. And I've mentioned this several times. Steel Pulse was one of the bands we opened up for many
Mm.
times when they came through the state in the early part of their career. And the band that John Dixon mentioned that should have been known like the
Mm.
Jetsons,
Mm-hmm.
they and my band opened up that first show that Steel Pulse was in town,
Mm.
and it was just a beautiful experience. It was my first time, one of the early memories of being in front of an excited crowd
Mm.
that we were all experiencing something new. I had never heard of Steel Pulse. I didn't
Boy,
know
that's magic when that
oh, it
happens.
is
Mm.
magic.
Oh, and if you
And
haven't experienced that, I mean,
oh
it's
my,
just an incredible when
yeah, yeah.
you know, it's
And
there are no words.
yeah, and Steel
Mm-mm.
Pulse took the stage and did not disappoint.
Mm.
They just lifted us everywhere, you know.
Mm.
It was really, really good. So they've managed to stay uh, on their feet and everything all these years through the record industry and everything. So that's basically what's happening here. And then the open mic nights, we've got another month of them
Mm.
here at the Tempe Center for the Arts, the Walk-In Wednesday. And on the last Wednesday of May, we'll be finished for the summer, and we'll come back in the first Wednesday in September. In the meantime, there's all of these other open mic nights happening throughout the valley.
Mm-hmm.
Tuesday nights, there's the Dark Side has their open mic night, and on Friday nights, the Chill Room has their open mic night. That'll be running straight this summer. And I can't think of that other coffee house that has
Oh, Zofro, I think is that what it's called?
something
Zofro?
like that.
Yeah.
Yeah, and so there's those, and thankfully because every venue, every open mic night is its own different personality, and that's what you want. You want that variety and that diversity, and everybody steps up and they do their thing, and that's a beautiful experience and everything.
There's
So
there's the Buzzed Goat. Joshua has open
that's
mic
what I was
on
trying to
Thursday
think of.
That's
nights.
the
The
one I was
Buzzed
That's
trying to
what.
Goat.
think
I
of.
thought
Yeah.
Yeah,
that's the one. The
Yeah.
yeah.
Buzzed
Thank
Goat.
you.
That's a nice
That's
coffee shop
Thursday
down there.
nights.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I definitely want to thank all our sponsors of the show here. They do a lot of work behind the scenes to make sure that it gets out and set up on all the live streams. So, and a shout out to them. They didn't always want to have their name mentioned, but I'm just saying we do have a team
We
behind the
have
scenes
behind the scenes
that
team.
makes this happen.
Yes, we
Unseen
do.
team, as a good friend of mine would call hers. So, what's happening with you, live, loud, and local over there, Glenn?
Well, over here, Central West, there's always a ton going on, but there's a brandy new open mic. And it's interesting that as Walt is getting ready to wrap up, there are always some new ones that pop, and I think maybe that's not an accident. On Wednesday night, David Shepard Grossman, who's a really good singer
Yeah.
songwriter here in the Valley, has started an open mic over in Scottsdale at the Arizona Barbecue Shack, and it's over on
Okay.
McDonald. That's Wednesday nights from 7 to 9, and my intent was to go, Walter, to your thing, and then maybe hop over there last night, but had people were busy carving on my feet, so I couldn't.
Too much information.
Mobility was an issue, so that really didn't happen last night. But I'm going to make it over there because David
Well, let me
is a
know.
good friend.
Let me know.
I will. So you might want to support that one over there. And hey,
Definitely.
when you mix music and barbecue, I mean, you are talking my language at that point, boy.
Yeah, I
I'll
like
put on a
that
black
too.
shirt because I know what's going to happen, and I will make my way over there with a guitar and do some damage. So good
Well, you
luck
can
with
wear that
David.
blindsider shirt. You got a black
That is
blindsider
black.
shirt.
That's perfect for barbecue.
Yes, it is.
Actually.
Yeah, they'd be dropping barbecue sauce over
Whatever.
the letters.
Yeah, we
and
call
it
that
look
the
like
Hey,
the red badge of courage right there.
that just makes it more noticeable.
the line ciders. It'd be like,
So that open mic,
or the blind.
you're right. That open mic is kicked off on Wednesday nights, and again, that's the Barbecue Shack. And the owners there are doing some things that they hope can facilitate live music, and that's what it's all about. So as venues come and venues go, it's always nice to see new stuff cropping up and people rolling the dice and taking a chance. This weekend, which is going to be the weekend of April, 17, 18, 19,
Yeah.
there's lots going on. The showcase at North Mountain Brewing Company is going to be Secret Harbor. If you've never seen these guys, it's a really interesting Arizona band because they do mostly music of the sea.
Yeah, he's a cool dude too.
Yeah,
Yeah,
That
Michelangelo.
sounds great.
Michelangelo. Yeah,
And it's like you hear these guys, it's like we must be Scotland or somewhere near water or whatever. No, they're all Arizona, but
yeah.
they have adopted the sea as their kind of as their muse. So that's going to be happening at the showcase at North Mountain Brewing Company this weekend, along with Gary Beckert, who a lot of us know. Gary had a lot to do with bringing entertainment into Arizona for a long time. Retired and kind of recommitted himself to being a gigging musician. And Walt has been instrumental in kind of shepherding Gary through some of the,
Yeah.
some of the steps here. And this is going to kind of be his coming out, where
Yeah.
where it's
Well,
it's
let me tell you something else about Gary. He's not only playing for you at North Mountain, he's opening for the Blindsiders June 6th at the Chill Room in Tempe, Arizona. So Gary's coming around.
that'll probably be the end of his gigging career. That will probably be basically,
Yay!
so you might want to
So-
catch him soon.
Yeah. After that, they're going to hide him in the sand somewhere
That'll
out
be
in
it.
the desert.
Well,
that'll
this
be
was
it.
a sound check for the desert vibe, y'all.
Yeah,
This
that'll
is
be
where
the
I'm
end of
gonna
that.
Disappear.
But that show is on this coming Saturday, which will be the 18th, as we're recording this show on the 16th, at the North Mountain Brewing Company, 3 to 5 p.m., and that should be some fun. There's an open mic over there that I do on Tuesday evenings. That's going really well. What I'm finding too is the listening room open mics are are doing pretty well, and that's a good thing. The chill room, Walt's thing. Not that the other open mics are not worth doing or whatever, but there's a very different vibe when the
Yeah.
focus is on the music as opposed to those kind of TVs over your head
Yeah,
and
there is.
and whatnot. And again, there's a place for all these things, and there's some great ones that have happened for many years in in just kind of a more a noisier, more maybe energetic environment. But the older I get, the less I'm able to handle distraction.
Hey,
Shiny object, shiny object.
okay.
Squirrel, squirrel.
But I can tell that you are getting old because you complained about being in that jacket, and you have not moved out of it at all. It's now become a part of you. You look like you're sitting in the Arctic somewhere, bro.
It'll
And
be
you
on
got
all day.
earmuffs on.
He's
I'm
probably
feeling
really
like
cold, and he
well,
doesn't
I
want
could
to tell
probably
us.
just actually nod off
That's what you're looking like.
anytime now. You know,
Any minute now. God, we got to wrap this up.
We got to wrap because I got to order my bomber
yeah,
jacket.
I know. So that's basically what's happening here, West Central, Scottsdale, whatever. But this has been a fascinating show,
Yeah.
and having Johnny on, Johnny Dixon was really a joy.
Yeah. Yeah. So
Unbelievable when you think about the folks that are here in the valley that have contributed a ton.
the stories.
Yeah, and
love
we're
it.
going to continue to bring them to you. I'm Glenn Gardner.
I'm Jamie Ray.
And I'm Walt Richardson, and I want to thank you all for dropping in and spending some time with us. And I want to say, until we meet again, you be good to yourselves, take care of one another, and let's give peace a chance. Talk to you
do it.
soon.
Yep, gotta go get rid of this rap.